got some glare going on. Well, everybody, welcome back. The final episode of 2020 for the Lucas and Zack podcast. We are doing our bonus episode for the Making a Band month. And we're here. Zack is our visual interest. He is the sexy one of the group.
I do not know if you know what this means. This will be talked about later. I have there's a specific purpose behind my nickname, the podcast visual interest.
Hey, I thought my nickname was not bad. I changed it just for you.
I like the effort. I like the hustle.
It's a great bit. You're welcome. We're so happy to be here, finishing out our first year of podcasting. I don't know if we both thought we would last 4 months, but we did. And it's good news for everyone.
In life, like I didn't know I would last 4 more months.
Zack and I legitimately thought we were both going to die sometime in October. And we have more episodes coming for 2021, so this will not be the last episode you hear from us. But let's get into our show the way we usually do it, which is, of course, let's start with last movie on Letterboxd. Zack Forward, hit us.
Hey. So I recently watched the Australian cancer drama. I don't know why I laugh when I say the word cancer. That's going to get us canceled.
Can I tell you a story related to baby teeth?
Yeah.
I'm laughing. Yeah. I, in college, was taking psychology classes, and I had to do abnormal psychology, which is basically psychology of all the really messed up stuff. And it was a really boring class, and my friend and I were quoting comedy movies like The 40-Year-Old Virgin to each other, and happened to burst out laughing during discussion. We did not realize the professor was discussing this, but he was discussing pedophilia and the condition of pedophilia, and we happened to burst out laughing, making jokes about 40-Year-Old Virgin during this, and it was very uncomfortable. So that was sort of similar to the way you just laughed talking about cancer. So we were both bad people. But continue. Baby teeth.
So yeah, it's a drama about an Australian family with a teenage daughter who is battling cancer. They never really make it seem hopeful. You kind of always see that as inevitable which way that's going to go. So it's not like at least she's very sickly, and the family is kind of trying to cope with how are they going to deal with her afterwards. And the aspect that was interesting in this movie is that, like, how do you parent a child and want them to make good decisions when this might be their last year or so on this planet, because she starts having an interest in a boy who is a drug dealer, a drug addict, kind of kicked out of his house. He's 5 years older than her, or 3 years. I think it's 22 and 17, so 5 years. Yes. And overall not trustworthy. And so it's we want her to be happy, and it's how do you tell her to have positive people around her life when she's not really going to be around? It's a weird conflict of what do you do as far as being a strict parent in this situation. So it's really about how they more or less try to have him be part of her life and their life while keeping it at a pole's length away as well, and how he kind of just gets himself close into the family. It's a really touching drama about empathy, and I don't say trust is the right word, but your forgiveness in that sake, that they were able to use this character as a delivery system for it. But really works best as is a performance piece. It is really a 4-man show with the Australian greats S.E. Davis and Ben Mendelsohn, and also Liza Scanlon, who's a great young actress, and the guy who plays the boy throwing some real Shia LaBeouf and American Honey energy. is I think his name is Toby. I'm gonna look this up.
Toby Walsh.
He is someone that Toby Walsh. Thank you. Someone that I was not familiar with, and I think is a revelation. I think he gets that. The charm that this character has, that you can understand why he gets his way into the family, but also with just that kind of drug addict, shiftiness as well. He does some great acting with his eyes. It's a great eye acting, but they all give really tremendous performances and have some real subtle points to their roles. It is a movie. I think, as girl dying of cancer, I laugh just because it's somehow it's became a genre, especially in the late 2010s, 20 with Fallen Stars, those BB jumps. I think this one is a lot smarter in how it handles it, a lot less sappy with how it handles it. And I mean, I like those movies a lot, but this one definitely has something different to work with it, and it goes in unexpected ways that I think is intelligent. So I recommend Baby Teeth. It is playing on Hulu. I think Hulu.
All right, all right. I have not seen this, but I am also going to Australia with my movie for the day, which is True History of the Kelly Gang, which is a 2020 Justin Kurzel film featuring Charlie Hunnam, Russell Crowe, and George McKay. McKay plays Ned Kelly, who is the leader of the Kelly Gang, which is this. I guess they are cross-dressing outlaws. Is I guess the best ways to describe it. This is. I'm not going to go too deep in the plot because this movie is relatively recent. I have to admit that I find Justin Kurzel to be a very frustrating director in that every time he comes up with a project, he has a great cast and a great idea. Like he's the guy who did Macbeth and he did Assassin's Creed and he did Snowtown. And all these movies, when I read the description and look at the cast, I am just so excited. Like True History of the Kelly Gang should have been a 5 out of 5 for me if you look at the story and you look at the cast. And he just, for some reason, Kurzel seems to miss something in his stories. Like, the tagline for this film is the British Empire branded them as outlaws, the oppressed call them heroes. This movie spends almost no time explaining why the oppressed find them heroes. And it spends so long getting to the point where it is the Kelly Gang and spends so much time getting stuck in other activities and less important stuff. Like, I don't know if it's Kurzel as a director is unfocused himself or as he works with people who are unfocused. But every time he makes a movie, it seems like it should work. It should be way better than it is. Like his Macbeth is like everything in that movie should be better than it is. And it's kind of a visually impressive but hollow movie. And Snowtown is this movie that is so horrifically brutal and beats you over the head with it to the point where I just checked out. And he always seems to, there's something that seems to be missing in his films. And I really want Kurzel to just nail it because I want to see the full potential of one of his movies. Because I feel like we're only getting like 60% of any of his movies so far. And that's just an increasingly frustrating experience. I'm going to let Zack talk in a second. This movie is just like, I wanted this to be a lot better than it was. Like there are moments in it that are really great, but I got to the end and I was like, that was like slightly better than okay. And that movie should have been better than okay, considering the source material and then a really, really fantastic cast he's got.
He's just a tonally challenged director. He definitely, I think he has a distinct visual style that is striking if you're just looking at the images. It's very kind of like drained of brightness. It's like dark and dry in a way that I think he tries to build everything around tonally to be similar to that visual style to match it, and it just lacks energy. Energy is his issue. The movies are just so flat, and I do think compared to his other movies, I think that at this points has more energy, and I think a lot of that does not due to his direction, but I think specifically, I think Nicholas Hoult gives a very striking villainous performance, and there's a couple scenes that he kind of has that chaotic energy of someone in a way like a little bit over his head as far as how he's trying to control situations, and I think it's a pretty exciting performance that did stand out for me this year. So I think that helped bring a little more buzz to this movie that otherwise he lacks in his direction.
I think McKay brings a lot of that energy as well. Him and Holt.
Oh, yeah, you're a McKay super fan. I forgot.
I'm not a McKay super fan, but I think he's really good in this. I think he's really good in moments. But I think actually I was thinking about what you just said about Holt. I do think this movie relies too much on its great actors to come in and just kill performances rather than presenting them with the material that allows them to do that. Like it feels like a lot of this movie is like, look, be excited. Russell Crowe is here. Look, be excited. George McKay. Look, be excited. Nicholas Hoult is here. Look, be excited. Charlie Hunnam is here. And doesn't always. It feels like it just lacks something. Like they're not. Um, I think it is a direction, and I also think a screenplay problem. I think the way they tell the story spends too much time on the stuff we like setting everything up, and not enough time showing us the Kelly gang. Like, where is that? Like, that's the stuff I feel like you look at this movie, and that's the stuff you want to see. And I think we spend way too much time with like his like. I mean, it's not a fun childhood, but it's not a particularly interesting childhood either.
No.
And I feel like we spend a lot of time just being like, hey, look, this guy's life was not great for a lot of years. But like, we don't need 50 minutes of that. You could have done that in 15, and you still would have gotten all the impact of that without having to sit for 45 minutes of, man, life was rough in the Australian outback under British rule.
I think a good comparison piece to this would be the assassination of Jesse James by the Count Robert Ford,
Mm-hmm.
and I think how that movie did really well at like aggrandizing the folklore of it all, of like you understanding how much Jesse James, the word of him and how much he meant through the community, how he is this mythical creature almost amongst the community, and
Mm-hmm.
that is how um, Ned Kelly kind of has the same reputation, through Australia, but they're never really able to make it seem that grand or that like greater than reality, like the Jesse James story, I think is able to be.
Yeah, it almost feels like maybe Kurzel is so in his own head as somebody from Australia that, like, to him, it seems like, well, of course, you just put the word Ned Kelly in a movie and suddenly it is this grand big thing. But I think that ignores the fact that if you're a person who does not, like, I didn't know this story going in, so this story does not sell itself to me as why, oh my God, this guy is this famous outlet. Why is this like, you don't sell me that this guy is Jesse James, as you were saying, or as Robin Hood, or like, where's the outlaw? Like, where is the persona? Where's like the myth of this guy? And the story just does not sell that to me at all.
Yep. And this is where we'll now input the recorded tape of Michael Campbell's Justin Kurzel superfan and Australia superfan talking about his take on this movie as well.
Has
Michael,
Michael?
take it.
I don't think Michael's even
Okay.
seen this movie.
No, I don't think he has.
Michael is a huge Snowtown fan. We've argued about Snowtown before, which is a movie that he loves and I find brutally oppressive and with a solo viewpoint that kills your interest in the story. But let's.
Kurzel in one sentence right there.
Why have I seen? This is a great question. Why have I seen so many Justin Kurzel movies? And I'm gonna see his next like 3 movies. So like,
I was ready like Macbeth to be this like big, fall takeover. I feel like it was supposed to be like just this like awards monster. That movie is just so flat.
It's again, it is a visually flashy movie that has nothing, and it's like, how on earth do you make Shakespeare's draw? Like, how do you make a dramatic Shakespeare, a Shakespeare tragedy, be so flat? Like, that is honestly impressive. The fact that you took Macbeth, which is a story that is very compelling and very powerful, and you turn it into something that I'm bored during. Like, that is honestly kind of surprising.
It's like one of his most climactic and exciting plays.
I know, it's like, man, I made Midsummer Night's Dream not funny anymore. It's like, how did you manage to do that? It's kind of impressive. Let us continue on to a movie that is more fun than that, which is, of course, Emmett Otter's Jug-Band Christmas, which is, in a word, wonderful. But before we get stuck into the film, let us have Zack Ford's plot summary presented to us. Zack Ford, plot summary.
Hey. So there is these two otters. There's Ma Otter. There's Emmett Otter. Her name's not Mom. She has a name.
Alice.
Thank you, Alice. They're just poor Southern otters living in a town that is approximately 50 square feet. Is what it looks like. With all these little these animals build beautiful houses, by the way. So they all live in there's a little river town. The river is super important. That's how they get from place to place, and also shows them great puppetry as far as how they travel and the canoe through town, and you get to see everyone, the foxes and the porcupines. This may or may not still be taping because we just lost Lucas, but I would keep going. So they're talking about Christmas coming up, but are constantly making references to how little money they have between them. It is known that the father otter has passed at some point. So they're trying to just make do. Her by washing clothes, taking care of other people, and he is kind of doing odd jobs, fixing fences, doing other things around town to make money. Then it kind of takes a gift of the Magi spin to bear. They both want to get something special for each other for Christmas without knowing that the other person also has this intention, to where they have to use something special to their loved one to complete that goal. There's a talent show for the town that has a $50 prize. So the mother otter says, "I'm going to sing in it," but she has to sell the toolkit, the dad's toolkit that he uses to fix things, to be able to buy a costume. It's very important that she has a costume. I'm pretty sure she's just like dressed exactly the same. But I think she would have been fine without doing that. But we'll move forward. And he was asked to be in a jug band and to play the the what's it called, the washing thing
Wash
base,
tub
wash tub,
base.
thank you, wash tub base. But then he has to use her wash tub to make one, which involves drilling a hole into it, so destroying the wash tubs, basically taking away all their money source. Really a bad idea. Problematic all around. Just to win a $50 contest. But they make great music. There's this gang going around, the River Bottom gang. There's some cool guys. There's a catfish that just like hangs out in a tub. They end up winning the contest because they're actually like really well paid musicians. I have lots to say about them. I was like very amused by these like show making scoundrels who are also just talented musicians. That's such like a sensitive thing to be into. So they end up winning, but they learn to put their talents together, and they sing on the jug band and mom all sing together, and they get hired to like sing in the hotel by the frog with a monocle, who's the best character in the whole show.
He's not the best character, but okay.
He's the monocled frog. He has like two lines. He walks around
Buck
with a monocle.
Bullfrog.
He looks great. Yeah. So then they get a full-time job out of this rather than a prize. They get to work for the hotel, and it's just a sweet Christmas story of people trying to get great presents for each other.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like, if you think about it in the harsher context, the most cynical context, it's basically like people making terrible financial decisions and somehow ending up with a full-time job.
Really, like, I think you're supposed to see the value in that. Oh, they want to get present. Of course, they have to destroy the wash tub and get all their money.
Imagine if they hadn't. Imagine if they get out of the theater at the end, they've lost the contest, and they just go home and they don't sing on the ice. They basically starve because they can't do tools, they can't do washing. But yeah, let us dive in. That was a wonderful. So let's talk. I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of things I want to talk about here. Let's start. You wanted to talk about the puppeteering in this movie.
Yeah. So I think it is important. I might be telling all lies, but as far as I am aware, this is the first longer feature sound, full length. It's about 50 minutes long. But after the Muppet Show, I think this is the longest feature that the Muppet Company, the Jim Henson Company, sorry, was able to make, because it was a couple years before the Muppet movie. It was more or less like testing the waters. So for what can they do with their technology, with their puppets, to be able to do a full length. You see, I said the use of water, I think, is really important to their ambition, as far as being able to have puppets coasting along on a real river, on a boat. And you can definitely see how they use that experience here to help out with the first scene of the Muppet movie, with having Kermit singing over the lake, and then Dom DeLuise boating up. And so they already had that kind of tested. But it is really striking to watch these. More or less, no puppets have looked more like stuffed animals than these two, but they do look like stuffed animals riding along on the boat. It's very striking. I think the just use of the landscape they create, and it having it inhabited by um, their puppets and their creatures to make it look like a lived in space is really impressive. I think there's just so many like natural textures to how they develop with their puppetry. You just like will see birds flying around, or there's like a heron in the water. you see different animals that aren't characters because they just use their puppet technology to create a full, beautiful landscape. That it's all very impressive.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they do a really good job of populating the world beyond the important characters. Like there are so many, like a lot of times when you watch puppets, it's like the puppets that we have are the ones that have speaking roles. And in this, there are more non-speaking roles than there are speaking roles. There are so many, like, the talent contest. There's like a billion people there's a bunch of people in the audience doing stuff, and they're individual characters. And even just, you're right, I love the birds all the time. Like it's a really good transition piece they use between scenes. Like they're traveling back from the town to their home, and they use like a shot of the birds going over the water, or they use birds to signify, oh look, the weather has changed and snow has happened. And they just also have like, it's such a built-in lived-in environment. Like you have the houses, you have the tree house where they're performing, you have the town, you have the music shop, there's just so much lived-in environment, and they really tried to create like a world for their characters to inhabit in the same way you would in live action. I think they just do I think it's such a good job. And yeah, it's impressive.
It's their first time really, experimenting with world creation. How could we not just make,
Yeah.
funny characters delivering a variety show, which is, what they were doing at that point. Now could we make a whole world where these puppets exist, which is becomes the Muppet movie, becomes, Fraggle Rock and everything they were able to do after because of this. I think it's easily forgotten how, important this was to the company and influential and how they were able to move forward.
Yeah,
there's really nothing like this at the time. Yeah,
it stars all the people you would expect to see in a Muppets production. You recognize some of the voices. It has all like the hallmarks of you would see with Muppets. There's like really good jokes. They have really good side characters with kind of funny lines. There's like a lot of, but it also has like just a general atmosphere of like happiness and affection for its characters, and the characters have affection for each other. Like even like, and like the worst characters in this are like the Nightmare Band, and they're like kind of ruffians and a little loud, and like, but like that's kind of the wonderful thing about Muppets is like even the quote unquote evil characters are really like not that scary or bad. So it's like
they
really
do kind of like mug Kermit, right? In the beginning of the story, Kermit, who's narrating the picture,
yeah.
they like drive past and more or less beat him up. But then that they are just like the town scoundrels.
Yeah, they're kind of like idiots more than anything. Like they're not like, they're like a little malicious.
Yeah, they're like
just
19, like the 1950s bad of what you see, and like people would drive around cars and been, "Hey nerd," and that's like as bad as it gets.
Yeah. It's just wonderful, and there are so many good characters. Like I think you genuinely like 10 to 12 characters in this movie. There's a lot of really good songs. They're really
Even
fun
when
songs.
like a character gets one line, it's like just so amusing either how it's delivered or just like they have a fancy fox. There's just a fancy fox dressed up in like a fur coat, and that's enough characterization for me for to be very entertained for those 5 seconds of that fox's appearance.
There's so many good small characters. One of my favorites is when when the boys are mending the fence. There's like the grumpy old woman on the porch who yells that there's work to be done. That's a
when
great
she
character.
like cons them, pays them 50 cents, and Emmett's like, "This is like not a fixing job. We're basically building her fence." And then she yells, "Hey, get to work!" And they con those two kids.
It's so good. And then there's like even the owner of the music shop, the female clerk in the music shop, who's just like getting like hysterical over the fact that they're playing with the instruments. Or like the guy who's mad that they knocked over his fruit stand and comes over and yells at young ruffians and then gets spit on by the fish. There's just so many great characters in this. It's such a
and all I'm thinking too is as we're talking about energy, Muppets have this like really magical energy because there's like such a calmness to it. I think the use of nature and like bird sounds in general just brings this kind of peaceful quality that makes you feel comfortable immediately within there. But then they do have the characters bringing this kind of zigzag comedic energy, so you never fall asleep to those wonderful bird calls. But I think Jim Henson had very strong comedic and energy control when he made anything.
Absolutely. Continuing our discussion of side characters, one of my favorite side characters is Will Possum. Will Possum appears early in the film, but his main role is as the curtain operator at the talent contest. And after the first one, he goes, he shuts on their terrible first act, and he goes, "Oh, it's gonna be a long night." I love this character. He's great.
And otherwise, he spends, I think, like all day fishing, is what it seems like. He's just like on the side fishing, and he's pretty nice because he's right by the like bitchy ass fox being rude to them on the boat. And oh, well, boss, I didn't even see you there. He's like, yeah, just fishing. Yeah, he did have a great. He was, our avatar more or less during this shitty ass talent show. So you can at least realize that these acts were supposed to be pretty bad, and then build up our confidence and our rooting for Emmett and his mother to win. Yeah, it was good. It was a good joke.
Let's talk about those acts in the talent contest leading up, excluding the last two, like the last couple ones. So it starts off with, I believe, a dancing horse, which is two Carrots, the dancing horse, which is two people inside a horse, and they come on stage, and then the horse falls apart.
They fall apart before they even get on stage. Like they come on separately and like can't find each other, and then they're falling. But the thing is, like, I think they could have made that work. Like I actually thought that was their bit, where they were like separate dancing pieces that joined together. I think it would have been a good if they were controlling the comedy and said, "We know the joke that we're not together," and that was their bit. I think that could have won. I would have voted for the dancing horse to win.
And then there's the rabbits, the dancing rabbits, which is probably the most annoying act of the entire thing.
And there was a weird. I think they were like weasels that were just hopping, just crazy.
No,
and
it was the squirrels. The squirrels were throwing
squirrels.
themselves in the air.
I thought they were like ferrets or weasels. Yeah, they're throwing themselves in the air. And then there's just one squirrel in the audience. So it's like, yeah, this is my shit. It's like the guy in School of Rock. That was.
I'm pretty sure that's the mother of all those squirrels was applauding their. This is one of the dumbest acts you can think of.
Straight up, their groupie, and she was just like, "This is fucking all of them."
One of the world's dumbest acts of all time. It is literally squirrels with like doilies around their middles, just throwing themselves in there. That's the entire act. That's not a talent. That's just anarchy. And then
I like that it's supposed to be bad, and that the Possum lets us know. Yeah, he lets us know. Hey, like we all know this is bad. Don't think that this is the best we can do, because otherwise you'd be like, is this just like the best talent show they can make with puppets? Like, because were they not able to do more acts than just jumping around like crazy?
Oh, it's so good. And then we have Yancey Woodchuck playing barbecue on his ukulele.
Yeah,
and kind of the classic old man playing a song that's out of date and doesn't realize he's not cool anymore.
But that was the important scene because that's what the Emmett Otter was gonna play, and they're like, this motherfucker. They were so upset. They're like, we can't play after, and they really can't play after. He just like ruined that song. So they quickly go and able to throw some other song together. It's kind of non-consequential in a way. That whole
in some ways they get the better song out of it.
Yeah.
And then Alice Otter, the mother, sings, and she's pretty wonderful, and you're clearly supposed to enjoy that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you have the final two, which is the Frogtown Hollow Jubilee Jug-Band, which, by the way, I would like to say for the record, you don't need Jubilee in that title. You could have just called yourself the Frogtown Hollow Jug-Band. Jubilee I don't know, it sounds overly complicated and kind of silly to the point where if I would have been their manager, I would have told them to cut that.
I would say that's what makes it better. I think they need like 4 more adjectives. The Frogtown Hollow Jubilee,
Jolly Jubilee Jug-Band, joyous Jubilee,
Jolly and Hungry Jubilee Jug-Band.
And then, of course, the Nightmare come on and they perform like rock. I actually do have an interesting point about this. I think their performance is really good, but in some ways, I'm very surprised that they won.
Why?
Because it feels like so different and potentially off-putting to an audience and a crowd that through the entire movie has found the energy of that group to be off-putting and hooligans and ruffians. Yeah. That for them to go out there and be like, yeah, that's the best one. Like the fact that they win makes no sense to me in some respects. Like I understand what we're supposed to see, which is in some ways this reminds me of School of Rock in that the flashier, more presented show ends up winning, even though I think that you as the audience are supposed to like the Jug-Band or the School of Rock better. And it is interesting because like in some ways I'm surprised that the audience bought that. Like it feels like something that the audience would have just rejected out of hand because it's not with their vibe.
No, that's definitely true because Emmett Otter and Alice were definitely playing what was seen as like the town's folk songs. They actually call that before Alice goes on. They're like it's a classic, Frog Hollow folk song. So Nightmare just was not playing to their audience, right? They were not playing a song that anyone was going to be interested in, that anyone was able to vibe with. So I agree, they definitely would not win, especially because they were so competent and successful the performances before. If everyone was shit, yeah, give it to the ones who play their instruments competently. But I don't think they would beat those. I think Alice would have won if it in that kind of environment. I think with that
Yeah.
kind of they showed the judging panel, that kind of a stodgy group. Uh,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it is surprising. I do think that Nightmare rules. I will listen to their album all the time. There's some real like Electric Mayhem energy they're throwing out there. This is the same kind of music. I think they were flashy. They were almost like a glam rock band. Even fucking what's his name? Is it Chuck? Who's the Great Bear?
The bear?
The bear's name. That's like the lead bad guy.
Oh
Like
yes. My apologies. He is. Oh,
going.
he's Chuck's. I believe he's Chuck
I was
Stokes.
right. Okay, yeah, Chuck. He's like rocking a cape, and I like the hustle they're putting
He's
into
got
these
platform
guys.
boots on
Can
too.
definitely not be like the troublemakers they are, and care at all about being like glam rock artists. That's what's real striking to me. But the song killed. It was good, so I get it. But yeah, I like the development of this scene also because having all the bad acts before, you just kind of get this comfortable confidence that they're yeah, this is all going to turn out good. Emmett or his mom is going to win. They're going to get the money. They're the only good acts there. It's like I completely forgot that the River Bottom Gang, which is their non-band name. They should just name their band River Bottom Gang. I don't know why they didn't stick with it. But you kind of forget they even exist. So it just like pulls the rug underneath you to go, ha, you got comfortable, you thought they're gonna win, but here's Nightmare to rock your fucking brains out, burn the house down. And so I like that. It's not really a mislead, but it is a control of the emotions that you're feeling at that moment.
Absolutely. And then they go out on the ice, they sing the song, and they get hired. And of course, the important thing is, do they have mashed potatoes? Because that is the most important part of any contract you sign as a job. Zach, did you ask about the mashed potatoes when you were hired as a teacher?
Yes, I actually have literally complained that I do not get enough free food. The school student taught at, which is like a pretty well off private progressive school, so non-religious based in the Chicago suburbs. I'm in Wilmette, Illinois. And I just swear there's like free food every day. So I got so entitled. There's just like cookies or snacks, or parents would just like bring stuff all the time, put in the teacher's lounge to where the days there were that food. I was like, what the hell? Does no one care about us? There's no food today? And so I had to get used to now being in a public school in a less well off area. And now I get shit. I get nothing all the time, and they need to start bringing me some food.
Yeah, they charge for creamerage.
We get baked potato bar during conference. Our dinner is a baked potato bar. It's not a dinner. Don't feed me an appetizer and call this a dinner. I got kind of in trouble for saying this in school one day because I said to another teacher who was a teacher representative of PTO that made the decision to have baked potatoes.
What is a baked potato bar?
They just have a crock pot of baked potatoes, and you get like sour cream and cheese and shit to put on it. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Baked potatoes should not really be a thing. I love potatoes. I don't need to eat like a full pound of just solid potato down to the rock.
No, that's not a great thing.
No.
I'm sorry, you don't feel great if you eat like a baked potato and like a bunch of sour cream and crap on top of it.
And I complained, and I'm complaining now. Am I going to say that I didn't take 8 of them home with me? No, I did. They asked us. I need to take advantage of the free food.
All right, public schools, please give your teachers better food, because the Frogtown Hollow Jug-Band got mashed potatoes at the restaurant that they worked for, and Zach Ford would also like mashed potatoes at his workplace. Maybe some ham to go with the mashed potatoes.
Yeah, sure.
I
I need to look something up real fast. I want to talk about with The Nightmare Band.
All right, I will talk more about.
Yeah, you thought I was done talking about Nightmare Band. I'm never done talking about them.
Thanks, never. I love just back to the little character moments. There's so many little character moments in this. Even the forming of the Jug Band is just really fun. It's Emmett is walking along with the woodchuck, and they're going to go fix a fence. No, it's not a woodchuck. It's like a porcupine, isn't it? And they're going to go fix a fence, and then he runs the other two characters, and they're like, "Have you heard about it?" And they're talking, and there's like my mom thinks I'm good at singing, and oh, you have a jug, and it's just there's just so many really small character beats that fall in line with like the Will Possum things, which is like it's one line at a time, but that one line sometimes is just perfect. And this is kind of like falling into like the classic Muppet thing where it's like later in the Muppet movies, they would go on to cast a bunch of famous celebrities to do cameos. And they do this, and it's just great every time they do it because it's like, let's find somebody you like and we'll give them a one line and it'll be fun. And this is just kind of like the first sign of that. And it just does it so well. But Zach, you wanted to talk about the River Bottom Nightmare Band.
Yeah. So on their Muppet Wiki, which I was definitely looking at after I rewatched Emmett Otter, so the River Bottom Nightmare Band is had a credit on here. So because I wanted to see like what is everyone playing. I was really confused about what there's a fish in their group that like when they got in the car, they just have like a water tank in the back of the car. He's a catfish. So they always just keep keeping water around. So there's a water tank on there. I'm like, what is this fish playing? So you have Chuck Stout, my hero, Great Bear. He just kind of growls. That's Frank Oz, by the way, the legendary Frank Oz. He plays keyboards.
Yeah, he's great.
We will do Frank Oz once this will happen.
Frank Oz is pretty good.
There's Stanley Weasel playing guitar. You got Fred Lizard playing drums. Howard Snake, which is just classic name, Howard Snake.
They're all great though. The lizard. There's a part of the song where the lizard just like howls randomly while playing the drums and like does like a wolf howl. It makes no sense, but it's wonderful.
I know they're really throwing some like Alice Cooper energy through this whole song, just like extra theatrics, on the end. Harry Snake, do you think that his whole vendetta against Emmett Otter, why he needs a place, because they keep making dumbass snake oil jokes? He keeps saying this dad's like classic snake oil jokes. It's like I want to be sell people snake oil, but nobody's really putting oil on their snakes anymore. I think Harry Snake's just like, hey, don't like throw me into this bad pun, please. But then so he plays bass. Catfish, his role in the band is, you guessed it, visual interest.
In the entire song, he literally is in a tank, swimming, and occasionally, and this is something I've noticed since I was a young child much first time, there is a bunch of electrical equipment out there, and he is spitting water out of a tank at people playing electric guitar, which feels like a terrible plan. We talked about in the commitments episode, there was part of the episode where they put too many plugs into an outlet and it causes things to blow up and fry people. Spitting water at your fellow band members while they are playing instruments seems like a terrible idea.
That was the whole thing. He was just there to be exciting and fun to watch. I think so. As I continue to live my life through Theo, all my dreams through Theo that I forced upon him, and he will inevitably have to be part of a band. I think instead of trying to get him trained on an instrument, I'm just going to be like, Theo, we're going to make you the best visual interest that a band can have.
Question: will you make your
be intriguing?
So you're gonna make your child swim in a tank on stage
while like tap dancing? And I feel like I've seen bands that purely had people for visual interest. There was this like indie group that just had like someone who would like tap dance. I was like, what are you doing right now? You're just there to be exciting. So visual interest is my new favorite instrument in the band.
We have to talk about another thing about the band, which is the fact that
also does not have a name. Like everyone gets Howard Snake, Fred Lizard. His
name is Popeye. Popeye the Catfish.
Muppet Wiki needs some editing.
Well, the main wiki says Popeye Catfish. One thing I love about this band is, so Emmett Otter's band walks out to center stage, sets up their instruments, plays. The curtain shuts. About a minute later, the curtain opens in the River Bottom Nightmare Band. They have moved 47 instruments, several light displays, smoke displays, a tank for a fish. Like
they definitely stole all this, right?
Oh, 100%. Definitely stole. I don't know. First off, I don't know how they carried all this stuff, either in the car they were in or on the snowmobiles, because they ride snowmobiles, because that's big ruffian behavior, is riding snowmobiles. I do love it, the just like the little character twerk of the annoying characters are going to have a backfiring car and backfiring snowmobiles, and that's how you know they're bad people, because their vehicles are not quiet. It's just so much fun. This movie is so much fun. Everyone out there, if you haven't seen it, it is on Amazon Prime. It is 50 minutes long. You should watch it with your kids. You should watch it with, nephew. You should watch it by yourself. It's just fun. I mean, I know Zach agrees with me on this. It is a really just enjoyable time, and you will. Yeah, it's 50 minutes. This is like the
Yeah, we didn't
perfect
really
length for
talk
something.
about it as a Christmas movie either, but it is just it has that. I mean, it's a classic Christmas story. It really is the gift of the Magi. At least it's been on it. So the classic Christmas story about giving, about
Yeah.
wanting to do something special for people you love, which is this Christmas theme. That's out of sight of the religious aspects. That's the whole um, kind of universal aspect is wanting to be kind to people that you love and your family. So it does capture that mood, but I think mainly just that calmness and we keep saying nice core, but nice core quality just makes it one of those
Mhm.
pleasant, Christmas movie that I feel like everyone can enjoy because there's still great jokes for, some of the older people and good lessons and easy to understand for, the youngest of kids.
Yeah, and it's like, the talent contest is on Christmas Eve. It's directly set in the Christmas season. I mean, a lot of the part of the movie is about wanting to get a big gift for somebody, but also about how Christmas is not just about getting a big gift for something, but also just about the small things. He gets the Christmas branch. They go use their father's old slide on the ice when it freezes. Like, there's a lot of just like really simple pleasures that this movie wants to talk about. The idea that, like, you can have the big gestures, but also the small gestures, and all those things together make it Christmas. So yeah, Zach Ford and I would like to tell you that Emmett Otter Jug-Band Christmas is wonderful, and you should watch it. It's fantastic. We're going to continue on to our second section, talking about the music in this film. Um, it's not really a lot of. This will be relatively quick, and we have a second part to the segment. Typically, we talk about influences. There's not really a
Yeah.
lot of
Well,
influences.
I think there is.
Okay,
Um,
Zach, if go ahead.
Well, I just think that so the 60s and 70s, rock scene did have a lot of kind of bluegrass folk references. There's a lot of bands coming, out of the South, whether it be the Allman Brothers Band,
Mhm.
some parts of Crosby, Stills, and Nash as well. I definitely see Jem Henson and them kind of capturing that, or Paul Williams, who wrote the songs, capturing a lot of the 70s atmosphere of what was big at the time. Even though like first song has a real like Elton John quality to it, which I think a lot of Paul Williams stuff did in general. Um, but when the Jug Band is playing, they're playing bluegrass music. Um, Even though they're playing with jug instruments, if you listen to it, there's a banjo, which is the necessary instrument for bluegrass. But his voice in Otter, I think, sounds like a higher pitched Neil Young, just so much sounds like a higher pitched Neil Young. But the whole time, I'm just thinking this is basically like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Young a lot way through it. So I think that influence is very important. And when the mom sings, there's a real kind of 70s soft ballad quality to her as well, which was a big part of that moment. So they're really capturing all the different genres that moment, because that was a very like Carpenters or Linda Ronstadt kind of performance. And I already said that Nightmare, they rule just like Alice Cooper kind of rule. But I'm actually Alice Cooper it has some problematic politics, but he's still is a fun musician. But I think they were really capturing that kind of glam rock that was really starting to start in the mid 70s as well. That be the young, more rebellious music that was starting to rise as well to capture that feel. So I think that they definitely had their foot on the culture at the moment, that what was big in music, and just made kind of kidified versions of those genres and those songs.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad I did not skip the influences section entirely, because clearly there were influences that you see that I did not notice myself. Our next question for this section is always, would you go see this band? And I think personally, I would go see the
Yeah,
Julie. They seem like a blast. I definitely go to
they're
that.
otters
I'd go to
playing
that.
instruments. I
I
need
mean,
to see these otters playing instruments.
Zach Ford and me are going to that hotel. We're gonna go sit in that restaurant, and we're gonna listen to Ma and the Boys sing some folk songs, and have a nice meal. Maybe have some mashed potatoes. Absolutely. The most important thing we're doing in this section today is we wanted to rank the 5 bands from the movies that we've covered. We're going to go 5 to 1, alternating. We'll just talk about the movie whenever first comes up, the band whenever it first comes up. And but why don't, Zach, will you tell me what you got at your number 5, and then I will tell you where that ranks on my list. What is your number 5?
5. I did have 7 ranked.
How on earth do you have 7 ranked?
So I counted Nightmare and No Vacancy.
Oh, I did not rank those. Fine. Where does it? Oh, just
I'll tell you where those bands would rank. So No
right,
Vacancy sucks. They would be last. No one should ever listen to them, and that music should die.
Pretty terrible.
Nightmare is like near the top. Just Nightmare is great. I would go to that show as well, even though they may mug me and steal all my money at the end of the concert.
Probably steal your scarf, sweater.
So my number 5, as far as the main bands that matter, is the marching band.
That's my 5 as well.
Because no one needs to listen to marching band music. I'm not going to see them in concert.
I have a more nuanced take than Zach, which is that genuinely, I think even in the context of the movie, this band is bad. Like, they're not well put together. They don't know what they're doing, and they're only good in the dream sequence at the end where they suddenly go from being a bunch of children to being like adult band. It's not, of all the movies that we talked about, this is the one where the band is important to the story overall, but is not good.
But their fans love them. And by fans, I mean their parents who are really proud that their kid was able to blow in a horn.
It is it's the most parent thing ever to be like, look at my son. He's got an instrument. He's blowing in it. It's terrible. Because Zach, you as a teacher must see this so many times with schools, plays and stuff, where it's like, my kid is on stage. He is awful, but he is up there and we're going to cheer.
And I have subbed for band before, and for some reason the band teacher thinks that whatever random teacher they assign to sub for them should know how to lead a band, and they actually had on their plans to lead them through songs, and the kid told me I looked too much like a wizard with how I was conducting. I was trying my best. But yeah, they're horrible. Like, kids playing music is hard to listen to, but I am understanding as a parent how just like impressed you get by every task they learn. Like how proud I am of Theo that he put a circle on a pole. And I'm like, oh my god, this kid is doing great things. I know as soon as he plays an instrument, that's how I will feel as well. It's just that like simple parental pride that your kid is just learning and developing.
Absolutely. So that's my 5.
Why do you listen to that shit? No.
No. This is the band. This is, I think, of the 4 bands, is the only band I would not want to see even for like a couple songs. So my number 4 is the band from Once, which is sure to be an unpopular opinion. And I'm going to make the case here. I think that if you were to make the argument of the duo from Once, that's not the band. The band is all these people, and I think the band in Once is the least impressive part of it vocally, and I would much rather watch the 2 of them. The actual band that they create that gets recorded is a little nothing to me. So that's why it's at 4, and I just enjoy the other ones more.
My number 4 is the School of Rock Kids, because they're a novelty act. They're fun to go watch. I don't need to ever put their album on. It's also just like the genre of music that I'm less excited about, as far as just kind of mainstream rock. A little on the harder end as well. So this is not my thing. But when I go watch them in concert, yeah, it's kids playing pretty good instruments. It's a fun novelty act, but not going to make my top 100 albums of the decade.
All right, what's your number 3?
I made a last second change.
All right.
Mainly because it's kind of similar to School of Rock. As like when I see them in concert, definitely if I'm going just by who I want to go watch, for sure. But as far as listening to them, I'm going to put the Commitments. They sound great. Wow. I want to go watch them for sure. They have great energy, but they're also just playing soul covers that I have originals that I love a lot more that I can just listen to and put on those albums. So I cover band will always be lower down the list for that reason. But yeah, once again, I'm thinking all together as like who I would like be a fan of. But if it was just like who would you buy tickets for, the Commitments could be higher up.
Yeah, I think I was going,
if not number 1.
I'm going on the more like, would I buy a ticket for this band? That was to me where I came into. So my number 3 is the School of Rock, which is your number 4. Um, yeah, I think it's really fun. They do a really good number, but I also feel like of the bands, like I don't want to see more than like 2 to 3 songs from them. So that's kind of why like they only to me work as an opener or as like a small bit player. Like I would not want to see a full concert from the School of Rock. I think that would get um really bad really quickly. So I enjoy this more than the brass band or the band from once. But yeah, I don't want to see like a full concert from them the way I would with my top 2.
Yep.
My number 2 is the Frogtown Hollow Jubilee Jug-Band.
Mine too.
Yes, I love this band. This band is so much fun. They're just like they seem like genuinely good people enjoying music and like doing music for all the right reasons. And I think they would be just a really fun, chill blast to watch in concert or to perform a full set at like a hotel. And I think I would you'd walk away from the experience feeling like you had a really good night of music. And I feel like, you'd feel good about yourself and feel good about the time you spent with them.
I would say if they're real bands, Sarah, my wife, would definitely be into them. This is like Sarah's vibe, bluegrass for sure. So we would listen to a lot of house, but also with so as far as like local bands and bar bands, places that people that play in bars, I really say there's only two music types of music that should be allowed to be played in bars, and that is blues and bluegrass. Because I feel like there's just like a pleasantness to it and a like easy appeal to it, and it's hard to like be horrible and you can play the classics that one sound new to everyone there because you're not as into blues and bluegrass, but also are just easy to master. If you're like trying to put a rock band in a bar, it's like you're just like doing way too much. Or like I've seen other ones, it doesn't work, but they're just pleasant, bar bands. It's like I definitely would see an Emmett Otter Jug Band without the Otter part. There's like 30 of them in Madison, and I would love to go watch 30 of them. It's just kind of that pleasant feel. Vibes.
I would make one pushback, and then that I would argue that folk bands also work,
That's
especially if you do more
bluegrass
traditional.
folk.
Yeah, but also I was thinking like I think if you go to an Irish pub, like a really
Yeah.
nice Irish folk band would be nice and kind of like it is. But I agree with you. That is like kind of like the chilled out, fun atmosphere. That's really good background music that you'll really enjoy, but also doesn't like a rock band is like overwhelming and like unpleasant if you were sitting there. You
But
can get
blues can be a little heavier, but like there's nothing better than like a blues bar at a blues restaurant. It's just easy to be pleased with whoever's playing now.
What is your number 1?
My number 1 is Once, because like I literally have seen this band in concert 4 times as far as Glenn Hansard, and to have always as a backing band, so it's the same thing as having a backing band to record with, and I have seen them perform with Marquette Globa. Like this is my scene as far as the music I follow and am into, so I was definitely more vulnerable to loving Once just because that is type of music that I go for, and it is we say best bands is who makes the best songs, and they make the best songs.
That's fair. I also think that's my number 4. I do think that there's a vast difference of experience with them between you and I. Like I saw this movie as the first time for this watch through. You'd seen it a bunch of times. You've seen this band. My number 1 is the Commitments. I think that is the band I would most want to go see. I think they are really fun. I think they're really energetic. The drummer might go into the audience and headbutt somebody. That would be like an interesting side spectacle. Might get an MMA fight of your band.
You're a lot tougher than me. As soon as he headbutts, I'm like, I gotta go. I can't be here. I get very nervous when any signs of violence is happening.
I just think it's a great band. I think they're fun, and yes, it's a cover band, but I think the idea of doing a bunch of Irish people with Irish accents doing soul covers is more interesting than your average cover band. They're not trying to sound like them, although they are covering songs, but it is at least it's an interesting way to do a cover band rather than just being like, look, I'm trying to pretend that I look like Elvis and doing Elvis songs. Zack Ford, you have a story for us. Why don't you do story time with Zack Ford?
Yeah. Just because I don't feel like I'll ever have a chance to tell this story in a somewhat related manner before, but just thinking about like crazy shit happening at concerts and headbutting and feeling uncomfortable. So I was at a concert at the Hiding Saloon in Madison, a pretty comparatively small venue. Probably like fill up with 200 people or so. There's probably like 100 and so at this concert. I'm forgetting the name of the band right now. Oh my gosh, it'll come to me. But anyways, like it's like a kind of a folk rock, southern rock band that we went to see that I am a fan of. There was this guy that just like brought shitloads of balloons. And when I say like balloons, they were like like expensive balloons, like designer balloons with different shapes and like the best balloons I've ever seen. And he would just, he blew one up and he threw it up. And I was talking about this the other day that there's always like the one person in the audience that like doesn't want to partake in this shit, and they just like smack it down, or like everyone just kind of let him fall. And he's like, "Oh, this is like isn't working." So we pull out like 3 more balloons, blow them up, and throw them in the air, and then he would walk through the crowd and pick up the balloons that no one was hitting and keep trying to put them up. He was like, I think this guy was counting on the whole day that I'm gonna have a great night. I'm gonna get these like great balloons. Right. Everyone's gonna love him. Everyone's gonna hit him. He had like 15 balloons. Someone like stomped on them. The band got real angry because it sounded like a gunshot, and like they're like, you don't understand what that sounds like on stage. I do think they had to end up kicking out this guy for his like nonstop throwing balloons. And it was like endless. I swear he just kept pouring more and more out of his pockets. I just don't know where this guy came from, where this is like his dream is to have wonderful, beautiful balloons at this concert. That doesn't have enough people to have a great time hitting balloons. Like that's a festival thing.
I have a feeling this guy was maybe under the influence of something when he decided that throwing his 35 balloons out was a good plan. I feel like most people who are not inebriated in some respect would have realized after number 15 that no one wanted to do it.
But he was also like so sketchy about it. Every time he like pulled a balloon out, he would just like look all his directions. And that was where I was almost like, I don't know if I could be here. I don't trust this guy. I don't know what's going on.
That's creepy. That's like super sketchy.
Because then I swear I saw him at another concert. Like, oh my gosh, balloon guy's here. We gotta go. We gotta bounce.
It reminds me of like when you're at a sporting event and there's the one drunk guy who really wants to do the wave, and he just keeps like, oh! And then nobody, and everyone else is just like, fuck off, but dude. It's cold, it's raining, it's like the late innings, no one cares anymore. And he's just like, wave! He just keeps doing it. By the way, I'd like to say for the record, I fucking hate the wave. It drives me insane in a sporting event.
Yeah, I hate it too.
Because I'm sitting there trying to watch. I'm trying to sit there and watch a sporting event, and then some dumbass decides to stand up in front of me so I can't see it. Stop the wave. Ban it.
Yeah, I mean, I also hate clapping. Like, I'm trying to listen to shit. Can we not clap over it? Or I'm not a trained dog.
Oh, you're like, yeah, no, I agree with you. Something that drives me insane is that if you're watching theater in particular, if they finish a scene, if they finish an act, if they finish a song, applaud. Do not do the thing where you do the standing ovation after like the fourth song so that the poor actors have to stand on stage for like 30 seconds waiting for you dumbasses to stop before they can continue their scene. No,
let's get rid of all clapping. We're in the middle of the goddamn play. Do not take me out of this. You can clap at the end. This obligatory clapping. Yeah. No one really gets so excited that they can't control themselves. Like, oh my God, that was so good. No, it's all obligatory.
That's right.
Need to do this.
Zack Ford and Lucas Schobach.
I paid to be here. I owe you shit. I am not clapping for you. You perform for me. Dance, monkey, dance.
And then now Zack Ford has just quoted Muppets Most Wanted. No, but this podcast officially endorses the position of no clapping, no wave, no balloon throwing, ban it all. No fun.
I am going to bring this back to that guy. Because you said that he's definitely on drugs or drunk.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That makes a lot of sense. However, like he planned for this. Like he went and bought all these balloons.
Oh yeah.
He drunk and fucked up all day.
No. He bought the drugs and the alcohol with the balloons, and he was like, "I'm gonna have an amazing time at the concert. I'm gonna get super destroyed, and then I'm gonna throw a bunch of balloons out."
The balloons were just there as like to carry the drugs, and he's like, "Oh, I have this."
I hope he does not have 35 balloons worth of drugs because that would be essentially. I don't think he would be alive at the end of that concert.
I do not understand how drugs work.
Yeah, Zack Ford, not drug takers. Caffeine is the drug of choice. Yep.
I try. Yeah, sure. Love is the drug of choice.
Love is kind of drug. Yeah, it's true. Zack Ford and Lucas. Love is a Drug, our relationships podcast, coming in 2021.
Oh, I'm up for
that. I think we have finished our discussion of Emmett Otter's Jug-Band Christmas, a wonderful film. And with this podcast, we have finished 2020 of podcasting. So I wanted to take a quick second. Firstly, thanks, Zack, for being an awesome co-host and dealing with my relentless scheduling and spreadsheeting and outline making and stuff like that. I also want to thank all our guests, Paul Oyama, Mike Hanley, Caleb Coe, Nazario Montenegro, Michael Campbell, Caleb Boatman, Jake Marangoni, Chance Olson, and Andrew Barr, who all came on this year to talk movies with us. They were all fantastic. We will have some of them back. Well, we have all of them back next year. We have more podcast guests coming next year.
We ran out of friends, so of course we got to come.
Zack and I have only 12 possible guests, and none of them came on in the first year, so we're screwed. But yes, we are going to come back in January 2021 with our next topic, which is, of course, the 5 combined works of Denzel Washington and Tony Scott. We're very excited to come back and start January with our first episode, which will be on Crimson Tide. We're going to do them in order and just, I don't know if we'll do a second section for those episodes more than anything. I think we just want to talk about a great collaboration between a director and an actor. And, they take a lot of C-level premises and turn them into A-level movies. And I think that's always a fun level experience. With that being said, Zack Ford, thank you for a 2020 run.
Yeah, it's been fun. I would thank you as well for actually doing all the hard work. And I just get to come on and act like a loud asshole. And it's fun and free to not have to put any of the more work other than outlining and watching the movie. So it makes it a fun, calm experience.
Yeah, I think it's just a good personality mix of I like the obsessive scheduling, and you are just willing to do it and fill out outlines. Thank you to you. Thank you to our audience, everyone who's listened. Thank you to all our guests. Thank you to anyone who has said anything positive, said anything critical, said anything about the podcast at all. We appreciate all the feedback. 4 months in the book, 2020 in the book, and we will be back in a couple days. 2021, here we come. See you then. Bye-bye.